Spoiler alert, because today on Comics, Cartoons, and Coffee, I will be discussing episode 2 and 3 of the X exclusive animated sitcom, The New Norm.
Cause I've been living life right like I could just die any minute. Going for a ride down the
Hi everyone, my name is Jacob Berry. Welcome to the StudioJake vidcast and the latest edition of Comics, Cartoons, and Coffee. This is the show where I talk about, well, comic books and cartoons while enjoying a delicious brew, today, iced coffee. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if you're watching on YouTube, ring that little bell so you get notifications when I post a new vidcast or a new Comics, Cartoons, and Coffee. And consider becoming a channel member. Okay, so previously I did the review of the pilot of The New Norm, which features the curmudgeoned Norm, who's clearly based on Archie Bunker. He just wants to have a normal beer while enjoying normal things, but he's got an SJW daughter who is always talking to him about his privilege. And then he has Skylar, a non-binary friend of his daughter's, and Skylar is also supposed to be like his house arrest attendant because Norm, I guess, caused trouble at his daughter's school and now he's under house arrest. Well, episode 2, that appears to not be the case. He and his black neighbor friend are in line to get on a rocket designed by Elon Musk, while his daughter and Skylar are both trying to get on a rocket built by Jeff Bezos. While they're in line, Elon Musk and Donald Trump appear. They fly in on this hoverboard, and just before they open up the rocket for everyone, gunshots are heard, and you see someone who looks like a former first lady who thought she was going to be president, and she is opening fire on Musk and Trump. They immediately jump into the rocket and take off without everyone. Meanwhile, the people rushing toward the Bezos rocket, they get a rude awakening when the door gets slammed in their face and a drag queen has taken control of the rocket and launches it into the Kremlin where it gets destroyed along with the Kremlin. And so Norm and his daughter kind of have like this moment where the mom acts as a mediator. So that was the plot of episode 2. Episode 3, it was way shorter. It's literally just Norm and his neighbor friend arguing with the daughter and Skylar and the mom trying to act as a mediator. And they're both throwing like these ad hominem attacks at each other. And that's basically the premise of it. It all stops when you see the TV suddenly change, and in a spoof of the conclusion of War Games, the TV says the only way to win is not to play, and then it goes into a commercial for a koozie that the New Norm team is selling. So yeah, that's the gist of the two plots. Okay, so what did I think? I have to say that from episode 1, there was already a stark drop in quality, and episode 1 didn't have that great of a quality. Like I said, I talked about that in my review for that. You can go check that out. But these two episodes, they came out around the same time, so that's why I'm kind of reviewing them as one. Now, as far as the animation goes, I actually don't have a lot to complain about there. I saw a lot of other YouTubers were kind of just raging about how terrible the animation is, but honestly, to me, the animation is just kind of typical of a modern era adult cartoon. In my opinion, Bob's Burgers and the Smiling Friends have the best as far as animation goes. I mean, The Simpsons and Family Guy have gotten lazier and lazier over the years. With The New Norm, to me, it just kind of comes off as the animation. It is bland, like there's nothing eye-popping about it, but I didn't think it was as bad as people are saying. You know, it just looks ordinary and, again, kind of like a typical modern era cartoon that you would find on network TV or sadly even on Cartoon Network these days. So I don't have a lot to complain about. It could be crisper, it could be better, but the character designs are just kind of typical of the genre that it's trying to fit into. Now, as for the voice acting, it's not that great. I mean, everyone does their best with what they have. In my humble opinion, though, you can kind of tell that they're not doing this in studio. I remember listening to an interview with the actor who voices Dingy in Chainsaw Man, and he actually did the voice acting over video call-in, and because most of Chainsaw Man's English dub was recorded during, the massive house arrest that the government put us under during a time of false pretenses. But anyway, so he had to do that role over video calls, and you can't tell. In my opinion, the Chainsaw Man dub is pretty good. This show, The New Norm, you definitely could tell. You could tell that they were not in studio together. The acting seemed more like they were reacting to the script, what was put in front of them, as opposed to actually they're reacting to the lines given. Now, I will say Dave Rubin, who voices Skylar in episode 1 and 2, he is the best of the voice actors. He was at one time a stand up comedian, so that kind of tracks, in my opinion. He sounded really good as Skylar. Now, in episode 3, a totally different person, I believe a PragerU host, took over the role of Skylar. Wasn't terrible, but Rubin was better. I'm just going to be flat out honest. And that's not a slap at PragerU or even the host who voiced Skylar. Just in my opinion, Dave Rubin was right for that role, especially since, Rubin is constantly critiquing everything that Skylar represents. So, like I said, voice acting, wasn't crazy about it. Okay, another thing about it is the direction of the story. Apparently, there is no direction because originally this was billed as sort of an adult animated sitcom, kind of in the vein of Wait Till Your Father Gets Home or Family Guy or The Simpsons or Bob's Burgers, whatever the case may be. It was kind of built in that vein, and certainly the pilot gave off those kinds of vibes. However, episode 2 and 3, it goes way off the rails into sort of farcical humor, not really satirical like the first one was trying to give off. In episode 2, they're in line to get on rockets to escape planet Earth. One's just built by Musk, one's just built by Bezos. I did like that the Musk rocket worked properly and provided a safe haven for Elon Musk and Trump, who partied at the end of that episode. And then the Bezos rocket gets taken over by a drag queen. And it could have been funny, but just because of how they took it and how they separated that from the story didn't make sense. So Norm isn't under house arrest anymore. He can go to a rocket to escape from planet Earth. I don't think that Skylar, whose job is to keep an eye on Norm, would let that happen. What I'm wondering is if they're trying to take it into the direction of more like a Hanna-Barbera cartoon, where if you remember Hanna-Barbera, their characters could do one thing in one short, and then in the very next, they're in a totally different thing. I remember they would do this often with Droopy. He would one day be in the Wild West, one day he'd be in modern times, one day he would be in what looked like the 20s, the next he would be modern for the day. So, that could be what they were trying to go for. But since they pitched it to X users, at least, as a sitcom, it was really jarring because you go from you're in the home setting to now you're on a launch pad and then you're back in the home. But half of the home is decorated in sort of LGBTQ representation. The other side is red, white, and blue, and their smart TV is talking to them. Does it have an AI? We were told that. It just kind of came out of nowhere, and it would have made more sense to me if they had stuck with sort of the sitcom vibe of it, because then they could build on that. Maybe they could even have parodied situations in actual sitcoms, like, say, The Big Bang Theory, where they go into a circumstance that happened in that show and something woke happens, but in this show, something, American tradition happens. They could have done something more like that, but to take it in sort of the spoof, a bad spoof of Hanna-Barbera, where their characters are doing something different each episode, I think that's going to turn more people off. I don't think that works for that particular show. Time for a coffee break. As I say on my website, StudioJakeMedia.com, here is the bottom line. This show is off the rails. It has poor character development, poor creative direction, poor writing, subpar animation, unclear direction for the voice actors. In short, it's just a mess and it's all over the place. If I was X and I wanted to continue this endeavor, I would try to hire someone to be the showrunner who actually has experience with animation, with cartoons, and even if they want to keep doing it in a short form, so 2 to 10-minute episodes to save money, that's fine, nothing wrong with that, but they really need to bring on a decent animation director who can take this in a good direction, because we're only 3 episodes in and I really have nothing positive to say. I mean, there's things I don't complain about, but I still don't think it's that good. In fact, I think it's terrible. I think that they should either abandon the project, take a break and revisit it next year, or just kind of say, hey, this was an experiment and we learned from it and we're going to do something new. Because I don't think there's a problem with X wanting to post content that's more entertaining. I think it's a good idea. I think it should be encouraged, but they should do it correctly and good, just good. So hopefully, X team, if you hear this, I'm on your side, but I can't lie and say this is amazing and magnanimous when it's not. It's not that good. You need to course correct. You need to find people who can help you with this art direction. And I'm sure if you reached out to a few, you might find that they're more willing, able, and ready to do it than you expect. Thank you so much for watching today's edition of Comics, Cartoons, and Coffee. I'm glad you tuned in once again to this series. If you like that video, be sure to give it a like, share it out to all your friends, leave me a comment telling what you think, and don't forget to subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, ring that little bell so you get notifications when I post a new vidcast, and consider becoming a channel member. If you want to support me in a different way, click on the link to my locals community. It's in the description of the video. You can head on over there. You can give me tips for articles I post, including exclusives for just people in my locals community, as well as become a monthly subscriber. You can also pick up one of my books. I've got the supernatural thriller Cacophony. I've got the high fantasy series, The Seven Royals, with All Good Things and Breaking the Stars, and my latest fantasy romance novella, Blessed Child. Head on over to Amazon, pick up one or all four of them, and leave me a 5-star review. It really helps out small indie creators like myself. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time right here on Studio Jake.